Back again for another mock draft. Feels like ages since I've done one of these, and that's actually kind of true, but I'm looking forward to this in a big way, especially since the morning of recording, Cal Toomey has just dropped his Phantom draft. Now, I haven't read it yet, but I am sincerely hoping that we have got some players different here, because I'm not doing a power ranking. I'm not going, these are the 20 best kids in the draft. I'm doing a mock draft, and I just hope before we all comment below that we understand that difference, alright? Ready to go? Beautiful. And as always, this is as the ladder sits at the end of round 18. I do not manipulate this. I don't do anything. I just look at the ladder, work my way upwards, substitute in those that have traded out their first round picks, and go from there. Apart from that, let's get into it, and I hope you enjoy. And just one more thing before we get going, I really appreciate the influx of subscribers that have flown in the last couple of weeks. The last few videos have been doing really well, and I am just really grateful. So if you could click a like on this video and click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and join the Daz Talks Footy family, I would really appreciate it. It has been an amazing ride throughout 2023, and there is only bigger and better things to come. But let's get into the mock draft, brought to you as per usual by Capital Edge Australia, but more about them at the end. Let's get into it. We start with pick 1, and of course West Coast take Harley Reid here. Now, could they trade that pick out? Yes. Will I do videos on these sorts of things in the future? Absolutely I will. But as it sits right now, July, if we go through all the speculation, we're going to be here till Christmas, and by that time, the draft will have already been done. So, can West Coast trade this pick? Yes, they can. Am I in favour of it? No, and if you'd like to know why, I'll link the video in the description below, and you can go and watch that. But Harley does a little bit of everything. Yes, he was a bit quieter on the weekend, but this is the downside of being the best kid in the country. If you don't play like the greatest we've ever seen, people already jump off you. So I hope Harley can deal with that as is appropriate. But he's the best kid in the country. West Coast need the best kid in the country. They take the best kid in the country. Now, North are up next, and they make a bid on Jed Walter here. Not that Gold Coast would ever do this and not take him, because not only do they need a centre-half forward, but when you've got the second best kid in the country effectively handed to you on a plate, you simply must pick him up. Walter is going to provide awesome things for North if he was allowed to, but he's not. He's part of the Gold Coast Academy. They pick him up, they partner him with Ben King, and along with the new coach, which is more than likely going to be Damien Hardwick, they are hopefully going to form a formidable duo for the Suns in the future. Not too much to say about Jed, but he definitely doesn't look 18, which is a good thing, and he doesn't play like one either. But that leaves us with North, who after their bid slide down to 3. Again, I'm not including the pre-listing of Riley Sanders here. I'm also not including a potential priority pick here. Whilst these things are just speculation, just insert what I said earlier. Now, if I told you North were going to draft another midfielder, your head would probably explode. Because let's be honest, they have too many of them. Even if Cunnington does go at the end of this year, and maybe a Hugh Greenwood might not be at the club next year, they've still got too many young mids. But this bloke's been playing as one, and he's 196 centimetres tall. Daniel Curtin is the man that North need to get, in my opinion. Whether they do want to put him at centre-half back if Ben Mackay does inevitably go, because they have had some injuries in that department, and of course, the potential departure of B-Mac. He's just the best fit. I'm really sorry. I wish it was a bit easier than this, but it's not. So that's the way that it goes. North get Daniel Curtin, and at pick 4... my Hawks go for Nick Watson. It's still the Wizard. I know Brockman might be there or might not. Watson's still the guy to take for mine. His footy IQ is a huge tick. Hawthorn are looking for guys with a point of difference as well. Taking Josh Weddle as a guy who was a key defender in his draft year, and the only time he's played as a key defender this year was the first 15 minutes on Charlie Curnow in the Carlton game. Let the Hawks know where he's at as a key defender, and where he's at is not ready. But considering the bloke plays like a Nick Blakey and potentially quicker than the Lizard, which is extraordinary, the Hawks are always looking for those guys that offer something else. Nick Watson offers something else in spades. He's such a clever player. I love watching him. He'll be a highlight reel for years to come, and even in a post-Bruce and Wingard era, he and Brockman potentially together? Whew. Okay, sign me up instantly as a Hawks fan. Melbourne and then Sydney are up next, but I think they just chop and change here. But I'm going to go with Melbourne take Nate Caddy here. I know that Dersma is the guy that's potentially going to be at the D's as well, but as long as Freo flounder Melbourne are going to get their guy. Now, they wanted to trade up, potentially using 2 firsts and a second with Gold Coast to get Bailey Humphrey. Nate Caddy can play and has played throughout this year, a bit like Bailey Humphrey did in his draft year. So it's really not out of the realm of possibility that they go and get a forward midfielder that can cause some X factor. And if Christian Petrarca is going to play more forward, having this kid on a rotation, alongside Oliver Viney and then a youngster to get them indoctrinated, a little bit like Will Ashcroft, although Ashcroft is a permanent mid, whereas Dersma or Caddy in this case wouldn't be. I mean, that's just mouth-watering for the Ds. And Sydney just take the other one that Melbourne don't take. In this case, it'll be Xavier Dersma. Now, I know Dersma did finish his under-18s better than Nate Caddy did, but to be honest, I don't see these two as that far apart. I know I'm seeing some rankings around by non-AFL journos that do have them a little bit apart, but in terms of what these teams need, they are pretty close to the same for mine. They can both kick goals, they can both impact games. I like the fact that Caddy's played VFL footy. But if I'm going to be honest, I think that if I make a video on the top 5 guys I'm crowning as mine in this one, so I could say my man, and then as they go through their career, I don't even know if that was a sentence, but we'll work with it. Xavier Dersma will be on the list. I don't think Nate Caddy will be. I've just loved what I've seen from Xavier Dersma, and the Swans would be lucky to have him, and he is my pick at pick 6. Pros, they've got Laird, they've got Dawson. Clearly, they want to have some more X factor in their midfield because the likes of Sam Berry and Harry Schomburg are just not getting games at the moment. Yes, Pedler, Rankin, and Rochelle have rotated through there, but if Colby McKercher is on the board here at 7 for the Crows, they simply just must grab him. This kid is a star, and I love what I've seen from him. He potentially could be the best kid out of this draft. He could be the best player out of this draft. He's the best pure mid in this draft for mine. Harley can do some freakish things all over the ground, but in terms of your actual plug-and-play midfielder, Colby McKercher's the best in the draft for mine. And he would complement Laird, your contested style, and your and your Dawson, I should say, beautifully. The way he gets the footy, the way he uses the footy, the way he covers the ground, his aerobic capacity for an 18-year-old looks awesome. Colby McKercher to the Crows should just make you feel good on the inside if you're a South Australian fan. And if he does get drafted to the Crows, that young core that they have got is just, it's so good. I'd be so happy. I'm not even a Crows fan, and that's making me excited. At number 8 should be the Tigers, but they flicked that to the Giants in their Taranto or Hopper deal. I forget and can't be bothered Googling it now that I've started recording. But anyway, the Giants, I think they're going to lose Himmelberg and or Riccardi in this offseason, so I think they go and get the tall here in Connor O'Sullivan. I like the fact that O'Sullivan is being played predominantly as a defender. It looks like his best position, and you might say, yeah, but they've got Sam Taylor, they've got Jack Buckley, they've still got Lee Kalir on their list. I understand all that, but when you lose talls, you really do need a tall to replenish. I don't think they go down the Archer-Reed road, especially because they've still got Hogan and Cadman, and I think for now that is going to be enough as they try to build around their smalls, and they keep going here. It is too early to go for like a Jack DeLeon or an Ashton Moyer here, so I think they go the best tall player and figure it out on the fly, and I really like what I've seen from O'Sullivan this year. Next up, Gold Coast match a bid from the Blue Baggers, and that will be for Ethan Reid. Now, this means that Ned Moyle might be a man in demand come the end of this season because Jared Witts shows no sign of slowing down as an awesome footballer, and Moyle is going to be pushed out, especially because Ethan Reid, when you take a guy or you match a bid in the top 10 for a ruckman, you're probably going to want to play him. I've really liked what I've seen from Moyle, and Gold Coast could still get a decent return for him, even though he hasn't been a best 22 player. His VFL form has been extraordinarily good, and clubs really need a ruckman. We've seen things like Brodie Grundy could potentially be at another club. If you don't want to pay, not that it would be an overwhelming price for Grundy, but if you want to go a little bit cheaper and try to develop your own guy, Ned Moyle might be the man. I feel like I haven't talked enough about Ethan Reid here, but he is the best ruckman in the draft for mine. Very close with another guy we'll talk about later. But Gold Coast, very lucky to have him as a part of their academy. I don't really have a problem with the academies. I know a lot of fans do, but look, we just got to bite the bullet, and that's really how it goes. So, Ethan Reid to the Suns, welcome. Number 10, the Blue Baggers. I know they've already got their young winger in Ollie Hollins, but I've really liked what I've seen from Darcy Wilson, and I really think that he would complement this Carlton outfit quite nicely. I really enjoy his work on the outside, and he does have the ability to become an outside mid later in his career. Maybe earlier than we think, but later on in his career. I know Blake Acres has put up some decent numbers on a wing, but it's not like they're paying him an overwhelming amount of money and really do need to keep him on the list. And of course, we've seen Carlton's ability to blood their youngsters. We've seen, Lockie Cowan come through this year. Jackson Binns has been on the periphery for a lot of 2023. And I go against the grain that Carlton desperately need their midfielder guy. Now, there is a midfielder on this list that you might be thinking would be absolutely perfect for the Blues. I understand that. And the next guy that I'm going to talk about is very weird for me because he's probably not going to be available to everyone, but I've still treated him as if he's available to everyone, so I can understand if you think I'm a hypocrite in that way. But Darcy Wilson to the Blues is awesome for me. I really love the fit. Giants pick up Riley Sanders. Now, he could end up at North. If you don't know how, he could become part of their next generation academy, and North would be able to potentially pre-list him, so they actually wouldn't have to pay any draft points at all. Or if that's not the case and he does become a part of their academy, they may be able to match a bid on him, which would come way before this. So this is no offense to Riley. This is not his fault. It's potentially North's. That's fine, but you've made this very complicated for me, and I've just got to live with it, which I understand. But Sanders to the Giants, if he was available to everyone, I don't think he would go down this far. I do like the fits of other players to other clubs a bit better, and I understand the closer we get to draft day, the more clubs prioritise talent over fit. I know that, so if you want to sound off in the comments, go for it. I'm not going to judge you for that. But the Giants have already got a pretty good midfield. Sanders would add to that in a nice way, but I still like the fit here. The Bombers, they do not need a midfielder. They could potentially need a centre-half back, but I don't think they go down the Ollie Murphy path. I'm going Archer Reid here, who I know isn't in a lot of first-round calculations for a lot of people that are doing their rankings, but again, this one is more fit for mine. The Bombers don't really need to go out and get the most talented kid on the list. I don't think they need to be a power ranking kind of draft now. Wiedemann isn't really working out. Peter Wright needs some help. We haven't seen enough development out of Harrison Jones, largely because of his body, which I understand. But this notion of if we bring in another tall, it'll, shake the confidence of talls that are already there is pathetic. If Archer Reid is the guy, then Archer Reid needs to be drafted to the Bombers. It really is that simple. And when you got guys like Merritt, when you got Elijah Sardis when he comes in, hitting you on the chest, Ben Hobbs as well, Archer's going to have a pretty good time of it. And if Peter Wright obviously is going to take the best defender, Archer Reid will be able to apply his craft on the second best tall defender. Sometimes he'll struggle, sometimes he'll do really well. But his athletic profile doesn't go away. Is he more of an athlete than a footballer? Hard to say, because he's a really talented footballer. Love the fit for the Dons, though. I've got Gold Coast matching a bid for Jake Rogers here. Really talented academy kid, midfielder, does what you need him to do. I hate the notion that we shouldn't be bidding on kids if we weren't really keen on taking them in the first place. We know Sydney did that, but claimed they wanted to take everyone that they bid on, which is fine. Good luck to them. But yeah, seriously, just let's make this as difficult as we can for clubs. It's really not that hard, because if you are bidding on a guy that you explicitly don't want, that would be a little bit silly. But if you're like, we like this kid, bid on him. Please bid on him. Nick Dacos made it to pick 4. That's disgraceful. And I know that's father-son, but still, bid on these kids as early as you can. But Rogers will be another midfielder for the Gold Coast rotation, who really do need it. As we know, throughout the Stewie Dew era, they really did rely, I should say, on Real, Anderson, and Touk Miller. He would add another midfielder into that mix, while Bailey Humphrey grows as well, and another talented youngster for the Suns, which is really, really nice. The Bulldogs, you'll never believe it, but I've got Will Patton going to the Dogs. I know. Please, I know. But he's perfect. He's the perfect fit. And yes, maybe sliding on a couple of draft boards, and he'll be definitely one that might fall out of the first round come August. If his form doesn't improve, I understand that. But I love the fit. I'm really sorry. The mock draft, I am doing my best to go, this is what I think they should do. And this is the epitome of that. The Bulldogs have got rebounding defenders. They've got tall defenders. They have no bridge. They don't have that Isaac Cumming, that James Sicily, that guy who's got some size and can still rebound really well. And he can be that. So just Just do it. Bulldogs, please, for crying out loud, please just do it and draft him. Whether it's in this round or the next, I don't care. But Will Patton of the Dogs is for me. And the Saints here, Will Lorenz has been a guy I've talked about a little bit. I'm still holding faith this month for Colton Tholstrop here. I do like what he brings. I do like the attitude that he's got. His Carnival wasn't exactly setting the world on fire, but I think that we can overlook or overrate, maybe that's the wrong word, but I think we can be too harsh a judge. Yes, they're playing against kids their own age. How are they going to go once they get to the bigger bodies? I completely understand that. But if we can forgive AFL players for having off days, surely we can forgive 18-year-olds. Like, surely we could do that. His raw talent is still there. That will not go away. And according to a couple of people that I've spoken to, is an absolutely ripping kid. And when you give that to Ross Lyon, they will be taking it and some. So Colton, you're still here for the first round, mate. Hope you go beautifully for the next month. But again, another guy who might be out of the first round unless he can turn around some form. Geelong should be in this spot, but they're going to bid on Will McCabe here, and the Hawks are definitely going to match that. Yes, he's going to be another defender. Yes, he's lightly framed. Yes, I understand all of these things, but when you've got a guy of this quality available at a pick that the Hawks would not have previously, you just got to work with what you've got. The Hawks are in an experiment phase. We understand that. Like I said, Josh Weddle, not a guy that's being used in his position. James Sicily was drafted as a forward. Jacob Kazitsky was drafted as a defender. Blake Hardwick won the goal kicking in the TAC Cup in the year he was drafted, and he's now one of the best lockdown defenders in the league. So clearly Hawthorn don't give a damn about your position. Denver Granger Barris was drafted as a centre-half back, playing forward even as the sub last week as they try to figure out his best position. So it's going to be interesting, but I really like what McCabe brings athletically. He's put up some bonkers numbers at times in the under-18 Sandful, and I, as a Hawthorn fan, would be really happy to have him. I think the Cats go a little bit Sydney-like last year and bid on Jordan Croft here, and the Dogs do match that bid. They've got too many forwards, and knowing that Jordan's coming through, now you wouldn't take this into consideration when you're doing your list management at the end of last season, but they have too many forwards. With Jones, Keith, Gardner not really setting the world on fire. I know Liam Jones has been very good this year. I do understand that, but, could a key pairing of Darcy and Norton work at centre-half-back and play Jamara and Jordan Croft? Doesn't necessarily have to be round one next year, but could that be the start of the spine of the next Bulldogs tilt to the flag? Potentially. Where Rory Lobb sits in that is a whole nother problem, but Croft does a lot of things right. I think you'd be pretty silly to not match a bid on a tall, because talls are really difficult to find. They're not midfielders. Midfielders are a bit more disposable. I know that sounds harsh, but it is the truth as well. So we've got to live with that. But the Cats make a couple of bids. Both clubs match, and then it's still Geelong at this point, and they go down the centre-half back role. I think they go for Ollie Murphy here, who really has risen up some draft boards in the Carnival, or at the Carnival, I should say. Beautiful size, nice skills as well, and beats his opponents, which is all you can ask for. I don't think the Cats are going to have a Sava Radagalia next year. I think Sam de Koning might need some help down there. They can't turn Tom Stewart into a hybrid key defender. That's not what he does. And Ollie coming in is nice. They've still got Jai Clark. I don't know where Brendan Parfitt is at, but there's still some midfield depth there. Mitch Nevitt as well. And I'm sure if there's any of the guys from the Geelong fan pages that I follow and have collaborated with are probably yelling other names at me. I'm sorry that I couldn't bring them all out in this video. But what the Cats can do is load up in the next couple of years with talls, and then it'll hopefully help the Hawkins, post-Tom Hawkins era go beautifully. But he's not going anywhere, guys. He's still good. And I'm not going to lie, as a Hawthorn fan, it shits me. But it is incredible to see as well. And I'm a footy fan as well, so I can appreciate it. But, yeah, come on, Cats, what are you doing? After all that, though, Ollie Murphy, very nice fit for them and a nice pick here at 18. Still not 100% confident with NP's last name, so I'm going with NP, and you could read it off there if you want to. But Melbourne, again, take a guy that they can pretty much plug into the VFL, learn their system, learn their way, because the raw talent and the upside are both there. And I think that's what Melbourne need to do in this draft. Even if they don't win the flag, they still need to keep tinkering here. They've got Van Rooyen, they've got Matt Jefferson, so they don't need at all. They've got May, they've got Lever, they've got Petty. They don't need a tall defender. What they can do is take a kid that can bring a real weapon off that half-back line and go. Think of a guy that might be a better version of, say, Jaden Hunt, who, of course, is doing some nice things at the Eagles at the moment. And that's kind of what they could see this kid turning into. I love the fact that his feet work a little bit quicker than his brain at the moment, but I don't know why Josh Weddle keeps coming up in this video. But that applies to him as well. It is not a bad thing at all. He's got raw talent. He's got some footy IQ. And it might take some time for him to break into Melbourne's best 22. But it's Melbourne. That's not a bad thing at all. Throwing your young kids to the Wolves might not be the best thing. West Coast. Anyway, 2 more picks to go. Let's keep moving. Port Adelaide, if they don't get a ruckman in the off-season, they take Mitch Edwards here. And I'm going to say that they're not going to go after a ruckman here. I don't think Ned Moyle at Port Adelaide is going to be the answer. I don't think Grundy is going to Port at all there. I don't know why, really. If it was offered, I think Port Adelaide would definitely do it. But until we know that for sure, we don't even know if Grundy's leaving yet. He's only been admitted once. So let's call it there. Mitch Edwards to Port. This guy could be the best ruckman in this draft. So sliding to 20 might be unbelievably silly for me to do. But Port Adelaide need a ruckman. He's a fantastic ruckman. He's still on the board. The fit is perfect. Excellent. And let's finish with Collingwood. Now, again, what the hell do Collingwood need? Not a lot. So again, a bit like Melbourne. What can they do? Take a kid with potential freakish talent and see what they've got. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to throw Ashton Moir in here. Collingwood's best 28 is pretty much set at this point. So Ashton, whilst he has struggled against bigger bodies so far, is a guy that I can see taking 2 years to break into this side. Like, we haven't even seen Arlo Draper enough yet, and he was drafted a couple of years back as well. So I'm not overreacting to what Collingwood do. Whatever their draft decision is, it's probably going to be correct. They miss out on Edwards in this draft for, I think, the first time since I've done these mock drafts. But Moyer's a freakish talent. He can kick on both feet. And yes, will take some time, but not everyone that's drafted in the first round needs to play in round 1, guys. Relax. But anyway, we've come to the end of the mock draft, and this mock draft has been brought to you by Capital Edge Australia, the leaders in property education and real estate investment in Australia. They are wanting everyday Australians to kickstart their property wealth journey, and you can contact them via the details on the screen. Click the like button if you like the video. Subscribe if you haven't already to join the Daz Talks Footy family. I hope you have an amazing week. 2 videos coming next week. I'm sorry I couldn't get one out on Monday, but it is what it is. Hope you've enjoyed the new setup as well. The dark blue theme coming strong in this one for reasons I don't know, but I'm getting out of here now. Goodbye, guys. Take it easy. Take care.